Who comes to your mind when you think of a musical artist that currently dominates the world? Popularity that streams overseas across the world's 195 countries and doesn't speak English. Further hints: a group of 7 young men who have talents in singing, dancing, rapping, and, according to Guinness, they hold 23 world records, including having the most tickets sold for a live stream concert at 756,000, the most viewed music video in 24 hours at 108.2 million views, and the most streamed act on music listening platform Spotify with 16.3 billion streams. Now, if you are not sure who you might think this might be, let me introduce you to BTS. BTS, as I hope you've heard before, is a K-pop group, also known, or it's a Korean pop group, and they come from South Korea. And you should be familiar with this band since they have been featured on the Grammys Awards show, the Billboard Music Awards show, the Ellen DeGeneres show, the Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, among others. You might have seen other K-pop groups make their debut on American television, such as Blackpink or aespa, or even the notorious Psy with his 2012 hit Gangnam Style. Sound familiar at all? I have been a fan of K-pop since I have been 13 years old in about 7th grade, and I believe my interest in East Asian culture even started long before that. And so my interest in K-pop has actually led me to go to new restaurants and try new foods, attempt to learn dances to songs I like, and even attempt to teach myself how to speak Korean. So, and also someday it is my goal to visit South Korea. So today I will tell you about how K-pop is kind of changing its sound to appeal more to the American audience, and how, due to the increased popularity of K-pop, we've seen more incidences of cultural appropriation, as well as, with increased popularity, there's been kind of breaks in the popularity of what defines K-pop as K-pop. So, with that being said, the globalization of K-pop is negatively affecting the K-pop music industry. And the first point I wanted to make about the globalization of K-pop was that, as quoted from The List, the band BTS was initially conceived to be a hip-hop group, but today they are a pop group. As Bong Shi-hyuk, CEO of the hype company that manages BTS, told Hollywood Reporter, as quoted, "I wanted to bring them to a bigger audience and achieve more commercial success. I wanted to bring rappers and vocalists together to follow a US pop formula. This shows that in order for a K-pop group to reach global success, they must first appeal to Americans. And to appeal to the American market, you need to change your sound, at least from a K-pop kind of perspective." And next, due to the increased amount of commercial success BTS has garnered in America, this has also led to K-pop groups using more English in their songs. So with that being said, BTS, I feel like they kind of made their really, well, I can't really say that, but their first entirely English song was Dynamite, and that one was I heard on the radio, which is crazy to think a K-pop group actually being on the radio. But they had their first completely English song, Dynamite, on the radio, and that was followed by Butter, which I'm sure you've also heard because that's literally in commercials on TV. And then also Permission to Dance was the next entirely, actually, I don't know if that one was entirely English, but either way, they've had entirely English songs. But the thing about having all these English songs, this has led to the songs kind of all sounding really similar and like the same, and they kind of give off generic Billboard pop, like American pop songs, and it kind of it doesn't feel like BTS anymore. So this is vastly unlike BTS's early discography, which featured a lot more like darker sounding instrumentation, hip hop elements and like rock elements. And BTS doesn't really have that anymore, which disappoints a lot of the older fans that BTS had. But I mean, they're still the most popular K-pop group in the world, so it doesn't totally matter. But it's just BTS doesn't. They don't. They are K-pop, but they don't really sound too much like K-pop anymore. And yeah, BTS, they had something really special going for them with their concept, because it was very different than other K-pop groups, and it really set them apart. And they are still really set apart, not only with just their sound, since it is super American sounding, but also with their popularity. But they kind of traded that old sound that so many other people really, really loved and resonated with for global popularity and fame, which is kind of disappointing. And as Wall Street Journal said, that as told by Wall Street Journal, some music critics say that BTS's output is flat, formulaic and derivative. And I couldn't agree more with them, since they changed their sound, and you could really hear it if you listen to their when they debuted in 2013. They had a very different sound to what their sound is right now in 2021. And so now that you've learned about how the globalization of K-pop is affecting just like the sound of K-pop, I'll next talk about how the globalization of K-pop has brought with it the breaking down of barriers as to what defines K-pop as K-pop. And so let me first preface by saying, according to Core, K-pop presents easy listening, fun, contemporary music with interesting lyrics and engaging moves by attractive-looking, youthful artists. And so the next K-pop group, yes, K-pop group I will talk about is the group Kachi. And Kachi is known as the world's first European, London kind of K-pop group. And this group, it only has one Korean member, and the other three are like Spanish European. I don't believe they speak any Korean. They're based in London, but they're K-pop. And so when they debuted, they were very controversial, and they still are to this day, just because they don't really feel or sound, or they just don't seem like K-pop at all. And I think along with that, this could also be due to just how they're being marketed. They should not be marketed as K-pop. So, part of becoming a K-pop idol involves several years of training called the trainee period. And so the trainee period is like a bunch of young aspiring musicians. They audition for companies, and they'll sign themselves to these companies. And with that, they'll just practice singing and dancing, and how to have a charismatic TV personality, and learning other languages for several years, until this company decides whether or not they are fit for the next K-pop group they're going to debut. And a lot of them don't make it, but no, there's the lucky ones that do make it, but they're also very talented, and they're very hardworking. But the thing is, Kachi did not go through this very foundational and vital kind of training period. And I think that sits wrong with a lot of people, because they kind of basically just they took the word K-pop and just kind of pasted it on them, when they really aren't K-pop. There's different people in the K-pop community or fans, that they'll do covers of songs, but they're not calling themselves a K-pop group, but they're covering songs by artists they love. but they're not K-pop. And there's simply just pop groups that are just pop groups, but it's not K-pop, and they should not be defined as K-pop. But since the K-pop lifestyle seems so appealing to so many people, like myself even included, everyone wants to, and since due to the rise of global popularity in K-pop, the globalization, if you will, it's brought with it the breaking down of barriers as to what defines K-pop, as seen by Kachi. Also, with that, there was this group that they mainly market to Japan. They all speak Japanese, and all of the members are Japanese. And so one would think that they'd be a J-pop group or a Japanese pop group, but they're actually a K-pop group, which is kind of strange, at least hearing it for the first time. But yeah, they are K-pop because they're based in Korea. Their company is in Korea. I think they live in Korea and practice in Korea, but they'll go to Japan and in Korea because they're popular in Korea too. But they'll go to Japan, do their performances and whatnot. And their main market is Japan, but they are K-pop because they're based in South Korea. So, with that being said, K-pop is not defined by the language necessarily that it's spoken in, because like that group is called Niziu. Just because that if they speak not Korean, it's not based on the ethnicities of the members, since that's an all Japanese member group. And there's plenty of other K-pop groups that have idols from different countries. But what does define K-pop as K-pop is the fact that it is based in Korea. That's like the big thing. There's other elements that aren't part of that. But because due to the globalization of K-pop, that's breaking down the barriers as to what defines K-pop as K-pop, which is negatively affecting the K-pop music industry. And so lastly, since K-pop has gained more worldwide popularity, this has brought with it the increased amount of cultural appropriation. And so I just have to this is kind of a brief one, I'll just talk about it quick though anyway. And so a lot of times with K-pop groups, there tends to be a Halloween kind of special with the group or the members, and they'll kind of all get in costume and just do a little performance or just do some sort of entertainment interaction with the fans. And this happened one time. This has happened several times in K-pop, and it's increased a lot more due to the rise in popularity. But just for quick examples, there was a member of the really, really, really popular girl group Twice, and her name is Jihyo, and for one of the Halloween specials, she wore a stereotypical kind of Native American costume. And so, Native American costumes, I mean, this is a whole other thing, but Native Americans and their culture should not be used as a costume, especially to other people, since it's just, it's not taken seriously enough how much they were oppressed. I'll stop that there, but yeah. And then also, we've seen a lot of K-pop groups using cornrows on a lot of their boy group members, and this is something I've seen on Kai especially, and I don't know why it is, but Kai is a group of the boy group member, or the boy group EXO, and he was wearing cornrows, and it's not necessarily his fault that he's wearing it's kind of the company, but kind of the fact that the company is oblivious to this very kind of integral part of Black culture, and the people just don't take it seriously enough how Black people have been very oppressed too in the past and still are to this day, but just to kind of take this thing from them, and they use these Black people use cornrows because it's just a functional way to wear their hair, since they have a very different hair texture to Asians and Caucasians and other nationalities and ethnicities. But to kind of use that and just as a fashion statement, it's cultural appropriating of Black culture. And so that is also due to the globalization of K-pop. And I believe if K-pop was left at a more domestic kind of entertainment, that we wouldn't really see as many, if at all, the amount of cultural appropriation incidences that we do see right now in the current kind of K-pop realm. And so, as you have seen today, we have learned about how the globalization of K-pop is negatively affecting the K-pop industry by the rise in cultural appropriation and the breaking down of boundaries as to how K-pop should be defined, as well as the sound of the music straight up changing. So I believe it is definitely praiseworthy to try new things and listen to music, K-pop included. But if it's not your cup of tea, definitely leave it for the true K-pop stans like myself to drink up, because I think I will always love K-pop, honestly. I mean, I've loved it since 7th grade. So I'm 21 now, so it's been almost 10 years, which is crazy. And so I just want to say, the next time that you see a K-pop group performing on television, I would just say, just kind of respect them and all the hard work that they put in, since the journey to superstardom is an arduous one, most especially the worldwide level. And that's all. Freaking 17 minutes. Oh, Merry Christmas.